Hello and welcome to the YouTube Pagan Challenge. The question for this video is, what do the moon phases mean to you? The moon phases include the dark moon, the waxing crescent moon, the waxing half moon, the waxing gibbous moon, the full moon, the waning gibbous moon, the waning half moon, the waning crescent moon, and then it gets back to the dark moon again. These names for the moon phases, like most people just separate them into waxing, waning, full, and dark moon, but I like knowing the particular names of whatever moon phase because I write down the name of each individual moon phase in my diary whenever I'm writing dates and stuff. Before I start going into anything spiritual, I think that I'm going to start with where I really feel a connection with the moon, because the moon originally wasn't just something that I celebrated. It was something that I would see in the night sky and get excited about. It was something that I could look up into the sky and be reminded of my grandmother and my grandfather and just be like super duper happy because it's all family happiness stuff and it's just super awesome like that. When I was a little kid, like little, I was probably 3 or 4, 2 or something. Me and my grandma and grandpa would go outside in the darkness to stargaze, and it was one night, it was a waxing crescent moon, or waning one, I don't really remember, it was just a crescent moon, and my grandmother just decided to point out to me that the moon in the sky, it's like, look, it's your moon, and I'm like, no, it's not. My moon is the big and round one. And I did that with my arms, and ever since then, she didn't dare possibly call any other moon phase my moon, just the full moon, because I really liked the big shiny one, because, you know, shiny. It's a little silly, I know, but it's a little kid. Either way, I always liked that because my grandma would call me up for years, was that whenever she saw the full moon and be like, Valentine, your moon's out and I thought of you. So it's like, the two of us, like, we can look at the moon and think of each other, and at any point in time, we could both be looking at the moon at the exact same time. Which means that ultimately we are connecting all the way across the country. Without even having to see each other, we can just both be thinking about each other, and it is such a sweet and beautiful thing that this is something that we can do. It's something that I greatly enjoy. I was absolutely obsessed with the moon ever since I was a little kid, though, so a lot of the time during daycare I would sit there and read the encyclopedia trying to find any information about the moon that I could. My family actually sent me books on the moon from Michigan, and so they would be sending me these books and I'd be looking through the pictures and trying to read what I could, but considering how young I was, because it was like 7, 8, 9 years old, trying to read these books that are a bit more complicated than what I was used to reading, so I was sitting there just trying to find information. At one point I actually made a giant poster during daycare about the moon, and it was like total research report, but it had like nothing to do with anything except for the fact that I really loved the moon, so people just were kind of like, well, that's really cool that you really love the moon. And like, the daycare teachers didn't make me go outside or anything while I was working on it. They were just like, well, she's chill, and I didn't even notice. Everyone was gone while I was doing it. Like, they disappeared halfway through, and like, they came back, and I finished it and went to show people, and like, the daycare people were like, you do realize that you missed going outside entirely. We're like, what? I love outside though! So it's like, whatever. And it hung on my family's fridge for a while, and it was pretty cool. So I've always kind of just loved the moon throughout my entire life, so it does have a bit of a special significance to me, and it's something that I just really greatly enjoy overall. Spiritually, there are these 2 specific ways that I decide to look at the moon, and these 2 ways actually correspond with each other extremely well due to the fact that one was based off of the other. The first form that I'm going to speak of is the traditional energies. These are set up due to the way that the moon moves through its cycle. The moon starts in the dark moon, and that is a time to give back. This is a time for us to do shadow work and to reflect on everything, because this is a time when it's a total darkness. It's a time when things have just ended and the new is about to begin, but we're in that in-between period where we can just sit and relax and reflect. And that's the point in the time where the dark moon is not there. Like, you can't see the moon. It's not visible whatsoever, and it's a time for reflection. The waxing moon, all of the phases that are involved in that, are a time for things to grow. It's a time for new beginnings and a time for us to begin things, because it is the beginning part of this 28-day cycle. It's when things are in its creation form. It's the first half of this whole process. It's extremely, well, it waxes. That's basically what we're trying to put onto ourselves. The full moon is a time for us to do pretty much whatever we want. It's a time for us to connect with the energies that be. But the full moon is shining at her brightest, and we ourselves need to shine at our brightest. That's the idea that we're trying to emulate here. This is the idea that we're trying to put out there into this world, and we are who we are. We are the witches that can do anything. That is what we're sitting here doing with the full moon. The waning moon is a time for things to go and be removed from our lives. A waning moon is a time for removing things that we no longer need or want in our lives, things that could hurt us. We need to remove things in order to make way for the next cycle. We need to remove things in order to make way for everything that we are, because not everything in our life is going to stay the same forever. And so the waning moon is a time for that specifically. This is a 28-day cycle, so this repeats every single month, and that is the traditional views on the entirety of the energies of the moon, and it makes sense because it aligns perfectly with the moon. It aligns in this beautiful way where we are being the essence of this moon. We are taking what it is and being that ourselves. We are that strong figure that the moon is. And I find that to be extremely powerful. I've been taking to incorporating the reed into my life. I've been trying to incorporate the Wiccan reed. The Wiccan reed is specific to Wiccans, so this isn't necessarily shared by all witches out there. And so the Wiccan reed, I feel, is used to make sure that we don't necessarily harm anybody, which is why it ends with "and harm none do we will." But there is this extended version that Doreen Valiente wrote, or so I've researched. And so there's the specific lines about each of these phases that are extremely interesting to me, because they are describing what they are, and it's put into perfect metaphor. Diozel go by the waxing moon, chanting out the joyful tune. Diozel is clockwise. That is adding things. It's going up in the numbers. We are creating things within our lives. We're chanting out the joyful tune. I freaking love singing. But chanting is a way to raise energy, and the energy of the moon is raising during the time of the waxing moon. We're supposed to be joyfully starting new things. This is what the reed is telling us. Widdershин goes when the moon doth wane, and the werewolf howls by the dread wolf's bane. This didn't initially make any sense to me, because it's wolfsbane and a wolf. It's like, what's it saying? Because these aren't necessarily common things that you come across growing up in life. However, the wolf is this very powerful, intellectual creature. It's strong, and it's able to take care of itself. And wolfsbane is a poison, that a very, very deadly poison. The werewolf is howling by it, it's hurt. The werewolf, this strong, intellectual creature, has managed to be harmed by this poison. Widdershins go when the moon doth wane, counterclockwise, subtracting. We're removing things from our lives, these poisons that can hurt even the most powerful and intellectual of beasts. I find that to be extremely... I find it to be, like, shuddery, kind of creepy, but it still manages to be what the reed has managed to put together. I think it is a brilliant piece of poetry. When the lady's moon is new, kiss the hand to her ×2. When it's a dark moon, we give back. We kiss our hands to her. We're in that time where we are sitting there and giving back to her. And since we are emulating her, that's why we're actually reflecting and trying to just be in that chill moment, because we're at the low point in the energy. We're putting forth our sacrifices to her. We're acknowledging the darkness that is. We're giving our power to her as we're giving power to all. When the moon rides out her peak, then your heart's desire seek. This speaks of the full moon. And it's pretty clear cut what we're supposed to do with that, where our heart's desire seek. The moon is shining at her brightest. We're doing the same thing. It ultimately corresponds perfectly with the energies that are most well known throughout the entire community. And I think it's extremely exciting that this piece of poetry exists, and that we can sit there and we can try to incorporate exactly what it says, and it's telling us to do what we're already doing. It's just I didn't realize it was connected. I've just been intrigued excessively by the Wiccan Reed lately, so I thought I would share my thoughts on this, and it's very exciting to me. I love how the two connect, and I love how we're trying to emulate the moon. It's this gorgeous spiritual thing that we're just doing. I absolutely adore the moon, and it is a delight to be a part of a religion that celebrates the moon. I've always valued it, and I am so happy being what I am. Thank you for watching. Blessed be. Please like, share, and subscribe. If you would like to watch my previous YouTube Pagan Challenge video or my previous video, click on the appropriate box.